Leadership isn't theory. It's pressure. Responsibility. Decisions that matter. This is the Real Leadership Brief. Conversations with leaders shaped by experience. Tested under pressure. And accountable for the outcome.
Welcome, everyone, to the Real Leadership Brief. I am your host, Donald Dunn. Today we have Joe Wyrwas. Joe operates at the powerful intersection of leadership, technology, and high-stakes decision-making. From building leadership programs for emerging leaders to managing complex software projects supporting national security at Booz Allen Hamilton, he learned early that leadership isn't about titles, it's about responsibility. Now serving as vice president at Anthem Engineering, he leads mission-critical work for the intelligence community and coaches organizations through his platform, Wiser with Joe. A licensed skydiver with over 650 jumps, he brings a rare perspective on risk, clarity, and performing under pressure. Get ready for a conversation packed with real-world leadership lessons. Please welcome Joe.
Hey, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Donald. I'm so glad to be on the call with you today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Leadership is one of those topics. Being prior military, I love talking about it. A lot of people don't realize how different it can be when you're talking about leadership from the military compared to corporate America. It's a very broad topic, and it's kind of like the Bible, man. People get to pick and choose out of it what they want to use to pertain. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
So why don't we dig into a little bit of background? What brought you into discovering leadership and into the roles that you're into today?
Sure. So my journey started way back in high school. I attended a 10-day leadership development program, and it was eye-opening. It was the first time I saw the potential in myself, and it was just like, wow, there's this thing called leadership. There's this ability that I can develop to actually move things forward with people around me. And that jump-started why I love coaching others and why I love leadership developments. Fast forward to college, I had the amazing opportunity to create leadership development programs for other undergrad students at the University of Maryland. And so that was the first taste of actually building programs that really drove home success for others. After that, jumped forward again, jumped into the working world. My background is computer engineering. And as my intro mentioned, Booz Allen Hamilton, one of the top intelligence and defense contractors on the East Coast, I found myself 2 years out of college leading a 15-person software development project. It was one of those things where people left the team and left the leadership chain. And I stepped up. I took the opportunity, said, hey, I'll try a little bit more. I'll do a little more. And being in the right place at the right time, putting the right effort in, gave me the opportunity to do things that sometimes take people 15, 20, 30 years to do in their career. And I'll dive into this later, but yeah, left Booz Allen after about 4 years and have been with my current company, Anthem Engineering, for almost 11 years now. And I have the great opportunity to help build it up from only a couple people to about 40 right now. And we get to do some really cool mission critical work for the US federal government and the intelligence community, really driving home things that support our country. And so just being on that side, I was never military, but my dad, fun fact, is retired Army 20 years. And so that was part of my journey growing up, and then getting to serve our country through the other side, through government contracting, has been quite the experience and journey so far.
Yeah. People don't realize how much contractors play a part in our defense. It takes everybody, no different than all the way back in World War I and II. It took everybody in manufacturing to help do what we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a big role. And you brought up a point, segues perfect into this question. As 2 years out of college, you were, as you said, leading a 15-person software project. Most people would feel overwhelmed from doing this. Did that thought going through your mind? You're like, holy crap, man.
There were definitely times where I took a step back and was like, wow, I have this type of responsibility. What is going on? But the thing I really focused on was the people around me. I had the opportunity to help build that team. And so I surrounded myself with people that really cared and really wanted to make a difference. And it was arranged. We had several software developers right out of college that didn't know what the heck they were doing, but were like, hey, I'll also step up in the ways that you helped me step up into, to these senior developers that have been around for a while. And because I knew that my job was to make their job easier, to make work meaningful for them, that through all that, they'd be willing to step up themselves. And so there were some nerves. There was definitely some hiccups. It wasn't perfect. But I think because the team around me created such a great atmosphere, it allowed me to just run with the position.
Man, it's almost like the leadership gods were speaking to you because you just did so many things that was way advanced for that time. One, to be a great leader, you have to be willing to put yourself in a situation where you feel uncomfortable. Yep. And check, you did that. Being willing to surround yourself and realizing, it's more about surrounding myself with the right team versus just surrounding myself with position fillers. Yep. Check. Yeah. Got it. And so you were doing so many things right at such an early time. Would you say some of you're growing up around your father in the military? Do you think that played a role in some of your knowledge as far as leadership already?
Yeah. So both my parents really rose me and my siblings up in a feeling of service and structure and just doing the thing. And they had a really good balance. My dad, retired Army 20 years officer.
This show is part of the Barracks Media Network, built by veterans, creators, and storytellers who believe stories change lives. Barracks Media produces podcasts, books, and digital content that amplify voices worth hearing. We help creators launch, grow, and monetize their message without losing their soul. If you've got a story in you, or a show in your head, go to barracksmedia.com and start building something that lasts.
My mom, school counselor for 20, 30 years, really created this atmosphere that challenged me at a young age to continue to give back. There's a family story that loves to be shared where my brothers are 4 years older. My sister's 5.5 years older. At the dinner table, we just finished dinner. I'm 4 years old. Siblings all get up, clear their plates. What does Joe do at 4? Also gets up, and clears his plate, because I saw it as my duty to serve and give back to others. And so just that culture really drove me to a lot of the philosophies and of how I approach not only leadership, but how I interact with everyone throughout the day.
Yeah.
Can I leave you a little bit better? Can I leave this project, this thing, this organization just a little bit better through my time, my effort, or even just maybe a good question I get to ask in the moments?
Yeah. So you had early success. Then the contract was. My question is not right. You had early success. I don't even know where I was writing this. So you had early success with your time as far as in leadership, yep. And would you say that early success also kind of built momentum for going forward?
It definitely did, but I think where you might have been going with it, sometimes stuff happens outside of our control. So I ran that project for 2 years, brought in multiple millions of dollars worth of extra work. And then unfortunately, what happens sometimes with government contracting is the leads of that work say, well, we don't feel like running this work anymore, even if it's successful, even if you're delivering everything they want. And that's exactly what happened. They said, well, I'm kind of bored. I'm going to move on to a new project, a new division. The person's deputy came in, unfortunately, didn't have the same passion for the work. And so, literally overnight, over the course of a couple months, we lost all of our funding. We had to start either letting people go or move them on to other projects.
Yeah.
And it went from this high flying, amazing experience to what do I do next? And unfortunately, at the time, my bosses didn't have a plan for me. And maybe it was a little arrogance, but I was like, didn't you see what I just did? Like, what's going on? And so that's what was the catalyst for me to leave. Now, the challenge is I basically had to start over. A young guy, now 4 years out of college. Sure, he's got stuff on his resume, but most people are looking for 10, 15 years of management experience.
Yeah.
Luckily, my company that I'm with still bet on me. And they said, look, we can't give you a manager or technical lead position, but we're willing to see how we can allow you and enable you to grow into it. And so luckily that progressed. And now here I am, vice president, been helping the company for multiple years grow. And so, it was high flying. Then, what happened? And now it's been a slow, steady climb back up.
Well, I think, right there, that kind of shows, the company you're with and the leadership philosophy that they have, because so many other people lead from within first and not external. What I mean is they think about themselves, how do I lead myself to success? And when a company is in trouble like that and cutbacks and stuff starts happening, everybody starts looking within instead of outside. And the fact that they were still looking at how can we utilize people and how can we continue on as a company and still keep the people that are leading, and you yourself saying, hey, look, I want to stay. I want to be, if that means that I have to grow into this position down the road, then let's go, let's do it. That shows right there how the leading philosophy within the company and yourself is applied.
Yeah, definitely. That's always my goal with anyone I work with. It's, hey, where do you want to go? And how do we work together to get you there? Either into the best software developer you could ever be, to the guy that loves to be out front with the customer, to the guy that wants to be the new CEO or vice president. And it's that partnership, as you were saying, to work together, understand how you can support towards each other's goals, and not just say, well, I did my thing, goodbye. And that's been really what I look for in all the work and all the volunteer activities I do as well. Yeah.
When you're looking at somebody else, right? And all companies have this problem. Nobody can foretell the future. And the interview process is so small in comparison to really know what you're getting, right? People rehearse what kind of questions and how to answer and all that good stuff, right? But what characteristics are you looking for that you can say, hey, I think we can grow this person into a leader? And what I mean by that, not necessarily mean that you have to be hiring for a management position, because you can be a leader at the line level worker. Everybody starts with leading themselves and then leading their coworkers and growing from there. So what characteristics would you say that you would be looking for in somebody?
Yeah, exactly that someone's willing to grow. Number one, are you looking to not just do the same thing for the rest of your life? And now, sure, you can still be the software developer for the next 40 years, but you're looking to continue to progress your skills. And so number one for me is that growth-minded aspect, that they don't want to be stagnant and be the same person they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
This episode is brought to you by Barracks Media, where your online presence becomes a real asset. Barracks Media builds professional websites for podcasters, creators, authors, and small businesses who are ready to be taken seriously. Not templates, not cookie-cutter pages, real platforms built to grow with you. Whether you're launching a podcast, promoting a book, or building a brand, your website should work as hard as you do. We design sites that convert listeners into followers and followers into clients. Visit barracksmedia.com and turn your idea into a home on the web.
The second big one I always look for is ownership. Are you willing to take ownership of your life, of the work you're doing, of the growth that you're ideally looking for? And maybe larger, take ownership of things around you, the people around you. And how I really judge those two things is I really love to dive into scenario-based questions. Tell me about the things you've done recently. Why did you want to do those things? How did those things make you grow? How did you take ownership of those tasks, those challenges? And when you start really paying attention to the words they use and the things they focus on, that's when I start trying to suss out, okay, they're talking a good game, but they let this thing slip, or, oh, they've repeated the same focus area. Let's dive into that more. At Booz Allen and then with Anthem Engineering, I've actually probably read over 1,000 resumes now. I've done hundreds of interviews to bring people on my teams. And so you start kind of getting that pattern of like, okay, you talk a good game, or nope, they're true to their word. I'm pretty sure they're going to come in, they're going to want to take ownership, and they really have that growth mindedness. And after that, it's really culture. Are you willing to be part of a culture? For us, it's collaborative and supportive. So are you supportive of yourself? Are you supportive of one another? And are you willing to work with one another as well? And so those like 3-4 characteristics is really how we've built Anthem and how I build any team I'm working on. And also anyone I work with, luckily I can be a little selective, and I'm like, hey, you seem like you don't really care about your people. You care about your bottom line. This isn't going to be working out as a coaching or leadership development scenario unless you're willing to have that mindset shift.
Yeah, I think, that is one of the big things right there that I noticed a difference coming from a leader in the military into corporate America as a manager. And I had some growing as well, going through, I mean, at the end of the day, the military is probably the best business to learn leadership because they spend millions of dollars on schooling at every level to teach leadership, but it's taught for a different purpose. And sometimes us military guys, when we come out, we have a hard time letting go of that mentality and understanding that our leadership style has to adjust. And now when I'm dealing with civilians and not, I have to remember that the widgets I'm making is not about life and death,
Sure.
And so you can start factoring in other things like the importance of being on time, quality, and even smaller things like, taking that moment to have a teaching lesson. Not everything has to be life and death, and it has to be done my way right now. Do it this way, and sometimes that letting failure happen just a little bit so you can utilize it as a teaching moment helps a section so that one lesson learned saved you hours down the road when they don't make those same mistakes. And that is one of the big difference I found coming from the military to the civilian world. Would you say that those are also some good characteristics to have as a leader, to allow failure to happen, to teach a lesson about it?
Oh, definitely. As a young kid, and even like high school and college, I was the get stuff done. I don't care about your feelings. You have a job. Why are you doing your job? And so even though I wasn't in the military, I had a lot of that exact same approach. Yeah. And luckily, I had a couple good mentors in college and right out of college who sat me down and said, you can't operate like that if you want to be successful in the long term. Sure, you can motivate and get a high quality for a short time by setting that bar and pushing and pushing and pushing. but you're going to burn people out. They're not going to like you, and they're not going to want to build to a better future together. And so luckily I had that realization because I had some very good mentors. And what it really led me to realize is you have to meet people where they are. We have our personality and leadership tendencies. We have things that we want to do and think a certain way. And of course, you don't want to change yourself completely. You don't want to be inauthentic, but you do have to realize, especially if you're in a leadership position, you have to try to understand how that other person thinks, how that other person feels, and who they are bringing themselves to in that specific moment. One of the examples I love to give is I had a guy on my team who was high flying, always high performant, and then we had some performance issues. Stuff started slipping. Taking a step back, realizing he had a lot going on in his life right then. And so looking at someone holistically and understanding that their season of excellence and high performance and being a rock star can't last indefinitely. Life happens, things happen. And so not only meeting them where they are, but also understanding that that person's going to change at times and that you're going to need to adjust as you progress with them on your team, hopefully for a very long time, because you've built up that trust and that collaboration with them.
Yeah. I think that's one of the characteristics that left the military with me that I love. And what you just described is not just caring about the leading and success, but caring about the individuals, taking that time to know Joe and who he is and what he's doing so that you can pick up on those things to say, normally Don was a good worker. All of a sudden this week he's not, and that water cooler conversation can be something as simple as, hey, how's things going? And just find out, is there something away from work that's going on? Not that we're all therapists, but you can put some context with it and then maybe offer some advice, or maybe there's a benefit that's in the company that people don't realize, that maybe it's just some counseling you needed, or maybe, he's just had one of those crappy weeks where the car broke down and the fridge broke down and the washer broke down and he's just tired of being broke down,
Exactly.
And once you know those, then you know how to adjust and how to rebound and fix that. I don't think enough people take that time to know that part of their subordinates or their coworkers. And it really hinders the quality of them as a leader.
Yeah, unfortunately. I had a guy on my team where we do monthly check-ins. And at one point I'm like, hey, bud, are these useful? We're just talking about your kitchen issues again. And he's like, yes, it gives me a chance just to talk outside of the home about what's going on in my life. And you give me the space, just whatever's on my mind. And for whatever reason, that kitchen moments stuck in my head. And I always go into my one-on-ones and coaching sessions saying, look, no expectations. We can share as much as we want. We can do status if that's helpful. But the opportunity is just to be ourselves in the moment, maybe open up a little bit, share the stories going on in our lives, and maybe even look to the future. What do we want to do 5 years from now? How am I supporting you in the next couple of years? And so it's that kitchen moment, as I've been calling it, that really clicked for me, that it's that water cooler talk that goes a very long way in leadership.
Yeah. Not to mention just from the corporate standpoint, obviously it's expensive to replace talent and it's even harder to find quality talent if that's what you're replacing, so that moment of just caring is a great way to, one, protect the company, protect the talent that you have, and probably can solve really simple problems. I don't know how many times somebody has said something and I say, oh, I know a guy that can do that, or just that general conversation and make that person's day a little bit better, by introducing him just to somebody that has a different talent.
Yeah, definitely. we just started a book club where a couple people were like, we really love reading. And so zero pressure, only a couple people were doing it, but then it's creating those connections, that opportunity to share some liked passions and hobbies, to maybe get to know each other a little bit better. And it was completely spontaneous. And it's those type of things where if a company culture can create space and opportunity, and ideally a little bit of finance, hey, we'll buy those books for you. They're $20. Why not?
Yeah.
We'll buy a pizza. It's those little things that start adding up. Of course, you have to have a much bigger, better, stronger culture around the little things. But when you already have that, and then you take even more moments to add and add, the next thing you know, you have people in your company that have been around as long as the company has existed.
Yeah. That's the first I've ever heard of a company that, incorporates something like that. And man, my hat's off to you. That is a genius idea, because now you have incorporated like-minded people with like-minded ideas. They don't have to be talking about work, but they're still engaging as coworkers. And that's going to strengthen that bond, when they are at work and talking work, and maybe projects are a little bit stressful at that time and there's disagreements. It's those kind of bonds that they're going to be able to fall back on as being like-minded people to work through those. The other thing that I like personally, I like to ask companies, when I'm interviewing, is simple things like, do you guys have Christmas parties? Do you guys, are there those things? Because that gives me an idea right there. How close is the company? If we're just a 9 to 5, we're friends from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And when we walk away, we don't even think about each other anymore. That's not going to work, because we're already spending the majority of our life together. We need to have those moments where we're growing, and man, that's an awesome idea. I may steal that if I ever get big enough to have a book club. Right now it'd be a me reading club, but
well, I got another one for you. So you mentioned Christmas parties. So we do a yearly Christmas party just for the employees and spouses. So everyone can get dressed up. Summertime, we do a barbecue. So it's a family event. Everyone can bring their kids and things like that. But the Christmas party, for every year, we give a personalized gift to every employee. Our leadership team spends literally 3 months coming up with ideas. And these are like $1 to a couple $100 gifts per person.
Right.
And the creativity and just the amount of effort that goes into it. And it's not the gift itself. It's we listened, we cared, we wanted to understand your hobbies and your passions. And we wanted to get a little creative to give you something that maybe you wouldn't buy for yourself. For me, one year they gave me a Oculus VR headset. It's the type of thing where I'm like, ooh, that's really cool, but I would never buy it for myself. And then they got it for me, and I'm like, oh yeah, got an Oculus. And that's how you build culture around the things people are passionate about, care about, and you really take the time, again, as you were saying, to get to know them.
Yeah. And man, that shows it right there. I can just see somebody opening up that gift that again, it's not about the gift. It's the fact that somebody took notice of me talking about something that I enjoyed and took it that step further. Any other time, sometimes I wonder if my wife could even do that, but at the end of the day, to have your place at work, man, that is awesome.
Yep. And I'll fully admit, strengths and weaknesses, I'm a terrible gift giver. So every year as we're doing this exercise, I'm able to contribute to like one person's ideas. I'm like, look, I can tell you what they like. These are the things we talked about the past like 9 months during our check-ins and like around the water cooler, but you expect me to go find the gifts? It's not going to work. And so it's again, balancing strengths and weaknesses and focusing on strengths. Rest of the leadership team, they take the time and effort, they run with it because that's what they're great at doing.
Yeah. So, we talked about getting to know the people. And I think that is a large part of building culture as well as successful employees to make a successful company. You can't have one without any of those others. It's a package deal.
Yep.
If someone's listening and feels overwhelmed by metrics and dashboards, where should they actually focus? Where can they take some of these ideas that you're giving and take that step back and say, okay, I need to do a couple things. One, I need to start building this culture. It still has to fit within our budget and have a purpose that's going to still benefit the company. Where does somebody start with taking some of these and implementing them?
Yeah. The US Americans, we love metrics. We love tracking our steps and weight and all of that. And if you look me up, I tracked my life for 4 years. That's a whole nother story down to the minute. For your question, the easiest thing is, hey, what would be a way that you all would feel like you felt supported and would be a fun social activity? And the big thing, especially if you're a grind it out, we got a lot to do culture, hey, no worries. Guess what? That 1 or 2 hours, you can bill it, you can charge it to overhead, whatnot. We can create small momentum towards that. Okay, we get to know each other outside that 9 to 5. And by actually asking people what they're interested in doing, trying to engage them in ways that they find fascinating or fun, or at least hopefully a little engaging, then you can start doing those things. And then really being meaningful about it. So if you're like, hey, we're going to throw a pizza party and half the people hate pizza, and then also your leadership team doesn't show up and it's some cold pizza and it's your software development team in a conference room and they're like, well, I'd rather be working because I want to go home at 4 normally. It's those things that really matter. It's not the presents. It's not the monthly happy hours. It's not the yearly Christmas. It's what are you doing to create those small things that people feel like they're actually part of something meaningful? Are you actually checking in with them? Are you taking time to get to know them? Are you actually looking at them holistically and understanding that they're a human being and not just a person at your bottom line? And so it's those small actions that start adding up, and being consistent is the big thing.
Yeah. I believe for the people that do like metrics and dashboards, there is a known fact that it isn't uncommon for employees to leave a place for a place that pays less if they feel more wanted and desired and can accomplish more things and be appreciated for what they're accomplishing at that other place. So just a small tidbit, that goes a long ways with the stuff that you're talking about, especially things like book clubs and having interests. So yeah, absolutely. Joe, can you tell everybody where is it that they could find you, follow you, and learn a little bit more about your programs and one, just how to become a better leader?
Yeah, definitely. 2 ways. One, LinkedIn. I post 3 times a week, leadership content, some stories, some reflections. So highly recommend following and connecting with me on LinkedIn. That is really the main place where I love to connect with people. And then if you want to learn more about the actual work I'm doing, the leadership coaching and leadership development programs I offer, you can hop over to my website, wiserwithjoe.com. And that's wiser with a Y, W-Y-S-E-R. Because for me, the why, the purpose is the most important thing. And so that's where I always start.
Absolutely. Well, I hope everybody that listens to this, I hope all of you guys go over and take time, check out Joe and his programs. I'm going to tell you, coming from the military side, you have to invest in yourself, and leadership is not just a skill that you gain from experience, but there is things that you can use, coaches and techniques to help you get that advantage and get that jump start on becoming a better leader. These are teachable traits, and you can get the why from Joe as well. So I hope all of you guys take that time. The link will be down here in the bottom. Make sure you click on it, follow him, and take that time to learn. You're going to make the atmosphere better. You're going to make your company better, and you yourself are going to be able to be better for it. So thanks to all of you guys who watch it. Can't do it without y'all. Y'all take care, be safe, and have a great day.
You've been listening to The Real Leadership Brief, a podcast from the Barracks Media Network. Thanks to our guests for sharing their experience, and thank you for listening. You can find more conversations like this across the Barracks Media Network. We'll see you next time.